Hey folks, this is Damon here from Vidigami. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I will be working with you guys all today doing a refresher training session. Just to start off with a bit of an introduction, my name is Damon and I am part of the Vidigami client success team here. Basically, we're going to focus today on a refresher training. Now, please keep in mind for all the folks that may not have done a full training with us, this is a refresher training. You are all, of course, welcome to stay and watch us through the session today, but we do encourage you to reach out to your client success specialist and book a full training session with us as well. It's going to make sure that we cover everything in detail for the things we may not get to today. As for the call, obviously I have myself, and then I also have my colleague Naz here in front of me. She will help us towards the end of the call with any questions that do come up. Perfect, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we want to make sure and we should address is, are you set up for your 2018-2019 school year in Vidigami? If you are, great, that's awesome. You guys are on sort of a good pace right now. But for those of you who are not yet, you can reach out to us, obviously to your CS specialist, and then chat about that in person with us. We're happy to do so. Also, you can go to our webpage here, about.vidigami.com/onboard. That will have all the information for onboarding, as well as we did a webinar about a month or so ago that you can check out the recording. That recording is also on that page, so feel free to take a look at that. But as I said, if you want to have a conversation with us about it, please reach out to any one of your CS specialists and we'll be happy to make the time to speak with you. Perfect. So, assuming we have set up a new school year, what are we going to talk about today on this call? Well, first thing we're going to focus on is how do you open up your new school year in Vidigami, as well as how do you go about inviting users into the system. We're then going to go into some more of the training stuff, such as how do we create albums and groups, how do we upload and share our content, tagging, and then we'll just close things off with some resources in terms of launch materials and some next steps for you guys. So let's go ahead and get into Vidigami and start to see how everything works and just kind of refresh all of you. So as you guys can see in front of me right now, we're in Vidigami. This is our internal account here, and we're going to use this today for our session. Now, again, keep in mind, this is not meant to be an initial training, so if there's anything that does not look familiar to you, we're happy to have a one-on-one training session with you. So we're going to jump around a little bit. I want to start things off by going into our group directory. As a reminder, a group directory is this section here. So if you see your school logo and your school name, you should click on that, and that will take you into what we call our group directory. There are two things I want to start off with here. First one being on the top right here, which both are on the top right, but the first thing here is this 2018/2019. This will indicate to you which school year you're working within at this present moment. So for example, if I clicked on this, you can see we have all of our previous years here as well. Now, if you're a new school, you may only see that one school year there, but if you are a returning school, you're going to notice that all those previous years are accessible. So you can always jump back to last year if you still needed to add content, tag, or do anything else for that matter. We're going to make sure we're on this space though, just because if we do want to upload anything, we're in that right place. The next thing I want to mention to you is this Open Year button. Now, first things first, this Open Year button is only visible to admin users in the system. So if you are an admin user, you will see this. And then keep in mind, anybody who is in Vidigami that has already activated their account in the past, they will not see the new school year until you click on this button. This button is basically your way, the administrator, to control when you go live with your community. So you may want to come in and put some pictures in from that first week of school, first month of school, depending on where you are with your launch. And then once things are in place, you may decide to open the year so that when your community comes in, there is content for them to look at. Now, again, please keep in mind when you click on the open year, that 2018-2019 school year will only be visible to your active users. So for example, if you are a new school and you have onboarded your users, just by clicking open year, this does not mean that your users are invited. Your users will see the new school year. You still need to go in and invite your users first in order for them to come in and see the content. The same goes for any returning schools who have new users. All schools will have some new families coming in at the start of the school year, so we want to make sure we go ahead and invite some of those users into the system so that they can come in and see the content in Vidigami. So how do we go about doing that? Well, I'm going to go hop into our admin panel here on the left-hand side. And by default, we always land into our users table. So this is basically all the list of your users you have in the system. I'm actually just going to hop over to a 17, 18 years, and you can see we can see users from the last year as well as this year. So first things first, I want to say, hey, I'm ready to invite my community. I'm ready to launch to everyone and have all my users here. I can go ahead and select this checkbox on the top left above my table, and it's going to bulk select all of my users. So I may go ahead and say, yep, I'm ready to invite everybody. Once I bulk select them, I get the options here to invite, send invitation, and I can click on that. Now we're going to really just focus on two main ways to invite users into the system. The first one is a Vidigami email. That's your default templated email. It's going to be pretty straightforward. It will have an activation link in it. The user clicks on the activation link, they go through the flow and get set up with their account. Alternatively, you can use a custom email. The custom email is really, really nice for a lot of schools because it allows them to personalize that invitation. So as a school, you can put in the individual you'd like to have that email go from. Maybe the principal, maybe the technologist at your school, somebody who your families may already be familiar with getting emails from. As well as a sender email, you can choose to put in your own school's email address. So instead of coming from the Vidigami team, it's going to come in from your school specifically. And of course, the main thing we want to focus on here is making sure that your subject as well as the body of the email is personal to your school. So you can use your school's language, the school's tone, whatever connects with your school the best. We actually encourage using this often because from a user's perspective, it's nicer to get an email from the school as opposed to a tool they may be using. I do want to take a moment and just mention that we generally do not encourage using the no email SSO. And the reason is because users do not get an email when you click on this and go through this invitation option. So we want to make sure that when you invite or when you get users set up in the system, they are getting an email so they're informed of Vidigami, and it gives them a chance to activate their account so they go through the flow and they know what their credentials are and so on. Additionally, we also have a mobile application. So by allowing either the Vidigami email or custom email to be the option, you're giving your users an opportunity to activate their accounts and log in through their mobile app as well. So we always encourage using either one of these two. Now, we do have some sample emails if you're interested in. We have handouts attached to this webinar, so feel free to download that particular attachment. It's going to have some information that's going to be helpful to you. We'll also be following up with our community after the webinar, so we'll try to include that link in the email as well. So keep an eye out for that if you aren't able to find it today. Perfect. So I'll cancel out of this, but there's one other quick scenario I want to mention in terms of inviting your users. Now, in the event that you say, hey, I'm not ready to invite my whole community, but I do want to invite a few key individuals. So let's say I'm only interested in inviting staff or a set of parents, or maybe even a group of students. What I can do is I'm able to filter on this table. If we click on this option here on the right-hand side, just above the table, and you can see it says more filters when I hover over it, it gives us access to all of our filters inside of Vidigami, or in this table specifically. So now I can choose from a number of different options. I can say, hey, I only want to see my staff, or my parents, or for that matter, if you are a school that says, hey, I'm going to give access to Vidigami, let's say to only my senior graduating class, what you can do is you can say graduation year has to be 2019, and if you're only interested in inviting students, you can also say students must be the actual user type. And by applying these filters, you can now basically shortlist the individuals that are here, and then again, same, you can bulk select just those users and send them an invitation. So you don't have to invite everyone if you want to do a more strategic rollout and invite people in small batches just to kind of work with the plan that you might have in place. Perfect. So moving onwards, we're now going to go and jump over to our side panel once again, and we're going to go back into our group directory. So let's go ahead and click on group directory here. Now, within this group directory, we've already focused on our open year and the current year we're looking at, but I do want to quickly jump in here and see our existing year's content. Right now, we have a number of different existing groups inside of Vidigami. Admissions, advancement, faculty and staff, grade 1s, grade 2, grade 3, all of these here are groups. Groups live within categories inside of Vidigami. So obviously, when we have a group, we want to go add content into that group. So let's go ahead and do some of that right now. Let's see what that would look like. I'm going to start by going into an existing group. Let's say grade 3. I click into grade 3. And as you can see, we have a handful of albums here in place already. Now I can always go ahead and create a new album if I wanted to do so. So for example, I can go click new album here. I can give my album a name. So I may call this, for example, test album. I mean, obviously the album can be named whatever is relevant to the content. We also want to give an album a start date in the event that the particular events for that album happen on a date. And once you do pick start dates, you can set your albums in a chronological order if needed. Additionally, you have the ability to switch it to a year-round album. So for example, if you have a basketball game, there's a good chance that happened on one specific date, so you may want to put a date on it. However, if you have an album that contains images may apply to the broader school year, such as, let's say, you'd like to group together all pictures of your students that are smiling. It'll be a good one to have for the marketing team maybe. So you may create an album called Smiling Students. And then while that doesn't really have a start date that is associated with that album, you can toggle the year round to yes. And then that's going to allow you to basically have your content there without necessarily picking a date that it applies to. Now, once we have an album created, you can see how they end up in this sort of grid-like view. So I can then go into any one of these albums. So for example, if I wanted to go to Roland Wildlife Reserve, I have an image in here already. I may want to go and add some more images. So in order to do so, you can click on this upload icon right here. And now Vidigami is going to open up a new tab for you where you can upload your images. Now the reason we do upload the images in a new tab is because if you are uploading a large volume of images, you're not going to want to wait till all those images are uploaded before you go back into Vidigami and do other things that might be required. You can always keep that tab open, upload your content there, and you're very easily able to hop back out into your Vidigami account and then go into a different album and start to upload content. Now, uploading content is fairly simple. I'm going to quickly jump out a full screen here, and we're going to go back into this tab. And I have basically a Finder open here which has 2 images. So I'm going to just grab these 2 images, drop them in here, and it's going to upload the images. So I can add them, I can hop back out, I can go work wherever else I want. It doesn't impact anything. So I can go into my other group, for example. And all while these images are kind of getting set up here. So now you can see those images are there. So that's good. And now I can always jump back into Vidigami, go back to my relevant album, and you can see those images are now here. So that's how you go about uploading images into an album. Now, what if you have a large number of albums, as we do here, and you need to upload images to multiple albums all at once? Or maybe you just need to upload images to multiple albums. Instead of going into each individual album and kind of opening up a new tab for each album, you can actually upload images in one tab to multiple albums simultaneously. This is actually really good because if you do have 4, 8, 10 albums open, you're gonna have 10 tabs open. And then you're gonna have to jump back and forth between those tabs just to see which ones are done, which ones can you close out. It gets a little messy with a lot of tabs. So instead, you just wanna be in the group where you have all the albums where the content belongs. And at a group level, you're able to now click on the upload icon there. So once again, doing so is going to open up a new uploader tab for us. The difference this time, as you can see, is all of those albums are now in this particular view. So instead of dragging and dropping, you can then just click on Add Media. It's going to open up your Finder, and then you can go look for the content, and you should be able to add them to each individual album. So now, in one screen, you can monitor the progress of each individual album's upload and not have to close out tabs as they're done and then jump back and forth to figure out which one is still kind of working. Perfect. So I'm gonna, again, hop out of this and go back into Vidigami. Perfect. Now, we also have a feature that enables users to embed videos into an album within Vidigami. So let's say, for example, if you do have a YouTube channel, or even not a YouTube channel, but just a YouTube account where you upload your content, or Vimeo for that matter, as long as it's public, you can embed videos directly from your account into Vidigami. These could be things like your graduation ceremony, a sporting event, a play that's recorded from your school. So the way you go about doing that is you hop into the album where you need to embed that content. So let's say I'm in this particular one. And when I'm in that album, you can see I have this icon here. Again, if I hover over it, it gives me a little pop-up that says this is insert external video. So that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I'm going to get a little box where I can put in the YouTube or Vimeo URL. So it just so happens I have a YouTube page open here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this URL just to show you guys what that process looks like. So here's that URL. We're going to go back here, and now I'm going to paste that URL and click on verify. Now in doing so, you can see I have the ability to update my title or edit my title if I want to, as well as the time and date that was taken. And I can also change my description if needed. I can make sure I modify these to fit my needs. And once it's set up the way I want, I just go ahead and click on submit. And now it actually goes ahead and inserts that video. You can see it has the YouTube logo, and I can click on it and watch that video right inside of Vidigami. So it's really easy to embed those videos, and a lot of schools really enjoy having that, so that you're not sending your parents to YouTube necessarily for them to have to find the video. You can just have that in Vidigami so it shows up on the feed page for your users. Perfect. Now, I want to quickly talk about what I think is one of my favorite features, is the ability to link albums within multiple groups in Vidigami. So to give an example of what that may look like, maybe your school has sort of a buddy system or some kind of mentorship program, or let's say, for example, your 6th graders are paired up with students in the 1st grade and they do an activity once a week, or however frequently that might happen. Those particular images technically can reside in both groups. Let's say, for example, we have grade 3, and if we go back to our group directory, we say, well, the grade 3s are paired up with the grade 12s. So where do we upload that content? Would it be grade 3 or would it be grade 12? What we can do is, instead of uploading it twice or only in one of those groups and hoping that the parents will go in and check, is we can link that album to both grade 3 and grade 12. So I'm going to go into grade 3, and we're just going to take an existing album, right? We don't have to necessarily create a new one, but we can if we do so. Let's go back to Roland Wildlife Reserve again. And at this particular moment, I can go, and mind you, only admin users can do this, but I can go edit my album. And if I scroll down here, I have this option in 2 groups. Right now it's in field trips and grade 3. In the example we just mentioned, we also want to link this in grade 12. Maybe this was field trip with the grade 3 and grade 12 students. It should really live in both those places. So you can either go in and type the group name in here, and as you start typing, it helps you kind of see the groups. Or alternatively, you can click on advanced search, and it shows you all the existing groups in the system for that year. So you can now say, you know what, that's supposed to be in grade 12 as well. I hit proceed. I click on save. Very important to hit save. And now, as you can see, right now it shows us it's in 3 groups: field trips, grade 3, and grade 12. So if I hop back out of grade 3, you can see here we're in grade 3. I hop back out to our group directory over onto grade 12. You can see that same album is now also living within this one group. So what's nice about this is you're not creating copies of this album. You're not creating duplicates of the images. It still is that one same album with just 2 different access points. So in this case, 3 access points: grade 12, grade 3, and field trips. There's no limitations with how many groups you can link to an album, so you're welcome to do multiple groups if that is the need you have for your particular content. Perfect. So we're going to now hop back out of our group directory. And because we now know how we can create an album, how we can link it to different groups, we can also upload images into that album, the next thing I want to talk about is groups. So we started off by going into an existing group within Vidigami. However, you may come across a situation where you may not have a group. So if I look here and I'm going down to arts, I might notice, oh look, I don't see a photography club there. So maybe I now want to create a photography club particular group based in the arts category. So what I can do is I go on the top of my page here, my group directory. I have my create group button. I click on that. I can call my group whatever I want. So in this case, I will call it Photography Club. And then we also have 7 preset categories in which each of these groups can go in. Now we do realize that these 7 preset categories can limit users a little bit sometimes. So we're working to kind of deal with that eventually. But at this time, we are finding that schools can use these 7 categories in order to put their groups in. And we try to see if we can make it as relevant as possible. So in the case of photography, I would say it's more of an arts. So I may select arts in this case. And then I can go ahead and hit proceed. Now in doing so, it takes us into the photography club. However, if I jump back out, you can see photography club is sitting right there under arts. So now we've created a group, we can very easily go into that group. As we've already learned, we know how to create an album, we know how to upload content and add external videos if needed. So we're able to do all of that. So what I want to talk about next here is what does it mean to have a public group and what does it mean to have a private group. So by default, by creating this photography club group, what we've done here is made a public group. So this means that anyone that has access to your Vidigami account, all your active users, everyone will be able to go in and see this particular group. It's not restricting anybody from going in there. However, you may want to make this group private. So for example, sometimes schools would like to make the yearbook group private, just so they have a yearbook team, they have a space where they can go work within that particular group without necessarily spoiling the surprise in terms of what the images will be that make it to the yearbook. So you can go ahead and, mind you, you can do this when you create a new group. You click on create group again. We have the option to make a group private right in that creation process. Or alternatively, if I have a group already, I can go into the group, hop into my settings tab here, and I can hit make that group private. It's very important if you do switch this over that you do go ahead and click on save so that those changes are applied. Now, by making a group private, you're essentially limiting the number of people that have access to it. By default, all administrators will be able to see the group. However, for the rest of the users, they'll just not see a group there at all. They'll just kind of see white space here more than anything else. So now we need to go in and give certain users access to that group. So again, in the case of the yearbook, maybe the students, staff members, and parents who are part of that yearbook committee. So if I go into my photography club group, click on my members tab, I can now click on add member. I get a little pop-up. I can either scroll through this list or search for the individual by name. Make sure I click on the checkbox to the left of their name, and I can multi-select people. I don't have to do it one person at a time. And I can hit add. And now in doing so, those individual users, when they log in, they will have access to that photography club. So once again, it's giving them a private space that they can go in, work, without worrying about the rest of the community having access to that content. So pretty straightforward with private groups, but what happens in the case of adding members to a public group? So again, in this photography club, we're right now in a public group. Often the question comes up, well, if everybody can see it, why do we want to maybe add members to this group? And the answer to that is it's all about content relevancy. So let's say, for example, we have a photography club here, as well as we have a few more art classes. So we have art class, dance, music, photography. There's a good chance that there are different students that are parts of these different groups. So maybe a music club student may not necessarily be in photography club and vice versa. So now by adding a member into the public group of photography class, all we're saying is that, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and add, let's say for example, Chloe Graham here. And by default in Vidigami, keep in mind when you add a member, the parents of that student specifically, they automatically get added as well. So now what we're saying is that anytime an image has been uploaded into the photography club, make sure that the members who are in the list of this page see that content over other things. So again, it's making it more relevant for those specific individuals. Whereas for my music club, they may not be as interested in the photography club pictures. They might be more interested in the pictures taken of them performing. And then the parents of the students are probably more invested in the music club than the photography club as well. So the parents will also have that content prioritized for them. So again, it's going to be the relevancy of content for the group memberships when it comes to public groups. Additionally, when you are a member of a public group, on the left-hand side, you're going to see all the group names where you do have membership. Keep in mind, I am an administrator in this account, therefore I'm not seeing those those groups. However, your everyday users, your parents, staff members, and students, if they are members of the group, they will see the groups that are that they have memberships to. So again, from the perspective of, let's say, a player on the football team, their parents will see that football group there. They can click on it. It's easy access into that group, so they don't have to go into the group directory every time to access the content from there. So that's basically the difference between private and public groups, as well as how memberships work. Now, the next thing I want to focus is your My Sets and Group Sets. So there are two different features inside of Vidigami that are very, very powerful. Now I'm going to quickly describe what each one of those are, and then we're going to go into looking at how we can go ahead and use them, or I should say set them up in some cases. Now your My Set gives each member a space to add content as they wish. They can curate this content to themselves, they can use it for things like a personal calendar, or really anything that they would like to. They're able to build this out, and it's personal to the individual user. Group Set, on the other hand, can be worked on collaboratively with a team, and also be shared publicly outside of Vidigami. So again, you can have your yearbook team use a group set to work in a collaborative manner, as well as maybe the marketing team can use it to share content on the school website or social media if they want to. So how do these work? Well, I'm going to go into our feed page. And for example, I'm looking at this and I see this is a really great picture. Maybe I want to save this as part of my set. So now that this picture is loaded up, I say, hey, I really like that. I'm going to go ahead and save it to my set. I can click on Add to Set here. And in this case, I'm looking at my set because I just want to have access to this image down the road. So if I have an existing set, I can pick from that down here. Or if I needed to, I could create a new set on the fly. Now in this case, I have a set for sports, and I know I want to add this image to that sports set. So I can go ahead and click on Proceed. And now as you can see, one item does get added to that particular set. So I can then hop out of this image, and at any point I can go click on my name here. Now of course parents will see their own names and their children's name. And they have a section here dedicated specifically for the My Sets. So if you click on that, you get to see all of your sets, and there's that sports. Now I had one picture from before and I just added another one in here right now. So I can now easily come back to this and use these images as needed. So that's how My Set works. Only the individual whose name is there, they will be able to see that content. Of course, in the case of children, the parents as well. Now, let's talk about group sets. As I mentioned earlier, group sets can be worked on collaboratively with a team, as well as they can be shared outside of Vidigami in a public slideshow. So, first thing we need to do is, in order to save anything to a group set, we need to make sure we have at least one group where we have group sets turned on. Now in our account, we have a few, but I'll show you how you can go ahead and turn it on for your account for any one group. Now again, this is where you'll add the content in that particular group set. You can have multiple groups with group sets. You're not limited to just one, but to do so, you want to just go into whichever group you want to add that set to. You can click on Settings, and you have this section here called Sets, and you can toggle that on to Yes. Once again, when you hit Save, one thing you'll notice is until you hit that Save button, you're not going to see this Sets tab here. There's just going to be Albums and then Members. There's just not going to be anything there. However, once you do hit Save, that sets will populate, and then you'll be able to go click on it, and you can now create a new set in there. As you can see, we can click on Create New Set, give it a title, or we can go ahead and go into the image where we would like to add to the group set. So I'm going to go into my feed page again. I'll pick a different image this time. Let's say we have this one here. We want to share this on a school website. It's one of the wonderful staff members who's teaching a class. So I can now go ahead and click on Add to Sets, Create Group Sets. And as you know, we were in grade 1, but we did not have a set in grade 1. So I can now create a new grade 1 set. So I can call this the first week of classes. If I go ahead and hit Proceed, I'm now adding this particular user to that one group set. So again, I can go in here, Go to grade 1, hop into set, and you can see we have that first week of classes there with that image. So now basically what we're doing is we're allowing anybody else that they want to come in and save content to the set. It's very easy to do, as you've seen. You just click on add to set and so on. Now, in terms of how you share this content outside of Vidigami, what you want to first make sure is this group publicly shareable? Or I should say, is this set rather publicly shareable? So if I go into this particular set, I can click on the edit icon. And again, an admin user can do this. You can see we have an option to turn on public set. So if I go ahead and do that, it just gives us a little pop-up reminding us to be responsible with this content. It is meant to stay within Vidigami. However, as a school, you'll know what to do with it. You can go ahead and hit accept, and you want to make sure you hit save. And again, doing so, what we'll notice is all of a sudden, we now have this icon here as well. This is our share icon. If I hover over that actual arrow, you can see it says share slideshow. So now I can click on this, and I have two ways I can share this content. I can either share it through a URL, so I can just copy this URL, share it via email or on social media, and it's going to play a slideshow with that particular image or any other images that are in this set, as well as I have an embed code. So if I do have a website where I want to put this content in, I can put that embed code. And one of the coolest things about this is that you don't have to regenerate a new link every time you modify the slideshow. So you can continue to add or remove content from the slideshow, and these links will remain the same. So if you have embedded that code on your website, you'll automatically notice the website is updated when you make changes to this set. So it's one less step on your end, and if you're not the one dealing with the website, it's kind of nice that you can have that set up once, and then on your end, you're controlling what images are making it to that page. So it's a really, really cool features. We really encourage schools to use it. So that's how that works in terms of group sets, and again, my sets. All right, so now we're gonna hop out of this and we're gonna start to focus on some of the images where it comes to tagging. And there's really two types of tagging that we wanna focus on in Vidigami. We have contextual tagging, and then of course we have face tagging. So let's start basically by looking at context-based tagging. I'm gonna take this image, for example. We have this image and it's a really good image, and I wanna go ahead and tag this image. Now what I can do is I can click on more info on the top right once I've popped this image up, and it's going to show me any tags that are already applied to this image. We'll talk about these tags in just a moment, but let's say I want to go and add a specific tag to this one image. I can click on this edit icon here, and down from here I can go and apply any tags that I want to associate with this image. So I might go put in the tag outdoors. So I can do that. And then because I'm an administrator, I can either choose to have an outdoor tag, or I can create a new outdoor tag if we don't have one already. So I'm going to go ahead and hit outdoor, and I'll hit save, and you can see now that one tag is applied to that image. Now in the event where you want to add, let's say, a context tag to every image in an album, let's say if I go into the Seymour Hatchery field trip, and in here we have 4 images, and I want to apply the same tag to all those images. Instead of going into every single image in that particular album, you can go edit that album here, click on the edit icon. And if you scroll down at the bottom, you have the ability to apply a blanket white tag to everything that gets uploaded into that one album. So if I put outdoor here, you can see we have that. I can apply that, I can hit save, and those images will all get tagged with the outdoor image, the outdoor tag. So I'd be able to click on them and click on more info, and you can see the outdoor tag is right there. It's the black album white tag applied to all those images. You can also, by the way, do this when you create a new group. So if I go back and say, I don't just want it to have basically that tag in all images in that album, I want it to apply to everything in a specific group. So for example, if I scroll down here to field trips, and all my field trips will be outdoors, for example, I can add my group level, go into my settings, and as you can see here, I can apply that same tag at that group level. So all albums and all images that get uploaded to that particular group will automatically get tagged, so you're not doing it one by one if that is sort of a requirement for you. Now, once you do have that particular image or images tagged, it becomes really easy to find that content. So I can do outdoor here, for example, and it's going to show me all images that have outdoor in it, right? Or alternatively, I also had another tag called outdoors. And you can see we now have a larger volume of images. So as you build out your tags and you start to tag more and more images, they can live within different groups in different albums, and you can find them all through that one particular search. So you're very easily able to find all of that content. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to also be able to tag students. So if I go back here, and let's say I look at this image here, we have a picture of a student, and I know, let's say, for example, who that student may be. So what I might want to do is I'm going to click on tag faces, and it's going to put a square around that individual's face. So it's basically the system is saying, I think there's a face here, do you want to tag this person? So I can now click on this, and by default, it's going to have my account's name on this. So let's say, for example, in my account, my daughter's name is Shala, so that's why I'm seeing that. But your teachers may say, oh no, I'm going to go ahead and tag Paige Graham in that because that's who the student is. So you can start typing the name of the student. And as long as they have been onboarded into the system, you'll be able to search on them and you can tag them in that one image. So now you can start tagging students and folks in images as well, and that will allow you to search for that person. So I'm not going to tag Paige here. Obviously, we know that's not Paige. But once I do tag, let's say Paige, I can go search for Paige in that particular set of images. So we have 95 images right now that have Paige tagged in it somehow. So I can then scroll through them. And what's really nice is I can start to combine different tags that can have combinations. So I can say, not only do I want a picture of Paige, but I know Paige and her sister Chloe are going to be in some pictures together, and we're trying to find sibling related images. So I'm going to say Paige Graham plus I'm going to search for Chloe. So we're going to have Chloe Graham, and we can see that we have pictures of Paige and Chloe together. I can even start to add context tags there, and I can say, oh, not only that, but I want to say, let's see, Paige plus outdoors. And now it's going to start surfacing any images that have Paige as well as are contextually tagged with outdoors. So you can really start to use tags to your benefit and really kind of help you find that content a lot easier as you kind of put the work in over time. So we're going to open it up now to questions. I believe Naz and Shella are mentioning that there are some questions. So we're going to switch over to the deck again, but I'll let Naz sort of take over at this point.
Okay, thank you. But one that just came in, wanted to know more about tags versus shared sets and how to use either one of them and what cases you use them for. So for tags, whether you're talking about context tag or group tag or album tag, whatever it is, you're trying to make your content more searchable. So when you add the tag to a photo, group, or album, you'd be able to search that specific word or keyword in the search box to find them and combine the search like Damon showed you. But when you're collecting photos under sets, that means that you're basically creating a collection for a specific purpose. So if you want to have a donor campaign, you want to collect some photos there, or if you want to have highlights of a certain event, you want to collect photos under sets. Whereas you won't do that with tags. You don't collect highlights by tagging the content. Tagging is more permanent, but sets are more temporary. Not temporary in a sense that they have a specific purpose, right? So it's not just to add some context to your content. It's more for whatever your campaign is for, or whatever purpose you have for sharing the slideshow. So maybe it's for sharing the slideshows on your screens in the hallway of the school. You want to create a set for that. But once you're trying to create a set, you want to collect photos and search for those photos. You use tags in the search bar to collect the photos. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm going to type this in the chat box as well, so that it's there for you guys. All right, let's see if we have any other questions here. Can it become a feature for future as websites don't change every year? Just the part. Okay, so we had a question about whether sets can be designed outside of the school year. So you create one shared set and you just maintain it and add content to it. And that's not something that we have today. The way that sets are worked, the group sets or public sets work today, they sit under groups, which also sit under the school year. So if you want to have highlights on your website, you would want to update a new set for the new school year. And I will capture this as a feedback that we want to have the option to make sets decoupled from the school year, and that's a good feedback for sure. Let's see, what else do we have? So Alan is asking if you want to show examples of slideshow on a website. Sure, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and set that up.
Yeah.
So Alan, I'm just going to add a couple more images to the one we just created, so that, as you can see, I can multi-select images as well and add to sets. Oh, never mind, I'm doing it through search. Let's just go into the feed page and do it from there. So let's say I'm in this particular album, and I want to select these 3 more images. I can add to sets, do that group set, and we'll just do grade 1 again. First week of classes. And then now we have that group set in place, so I can go look for that specifically, grade 1, sets, first week of classes. And you can see we can now share that. And just so you all know how that looks, by the way, we're also going to include this in the chat box in terms of our support material on this, but I just wanted to also quickly show you guys how this works. If I just go back to, let's say, my browser, I'll hop out of the full screen here. And I'm going to go paste that URL. Actually, before I even do so, I'm actually going to go into my incognito mode, just so I'm acting as a user that's logged out of the system. And now if I again make this full screen, you can see we have those images rotating as a slideshow. So they'll continue to rotate. You can pause it, you can move on manually to the next. It doesn't include any data. Just see, I can hover over, there's no tagging involved. I can click on go to album here, but keep in mind, because I was logged into Vidigami and I've used an incognito window to access this, it's now asking me to log in. So if you do share it with your community and they try to access that album, they're going to have to still go in and put in their credentials before they can actually go into the content.
Will you offer the feature that allows the admin to click and drag albums within a group or click and drag individual photos within an album? That's a great question, and yes, we will have drag and drop photos to custom order within an album. We won't have that in the group. So we won't have that for albums yet, but the feature to drag and drop photos within an album and sort them however you want is something that is coming.
Set or album?
Album. Yes. That happens when we have the unlimited scroll, because once we have decoupled paging from sorting, then we would be addressing the limitation there, and we can then custom sort. All right, moving on to the next one. Did you say that others can add images to the sets you create that are public for sharing to web? Depends on the permissions that you set, but yes, sets are designed to be collaborative if you choose to. So you create the sets under a group. If you add other members to that specific group, and if you give them a manager role and above, they will be able to contribute to that set. If you don't give them the manager role, then they won't be. And if you choose to make your group private, then that group doesn't even show up for everyone else. So if you have concerns around sets being updated by other people that you don't want them to contribute, then you can control that on your end for sure. But if you do want to collaboratively collect highlights for an event or for a specific campaign or yearbook or whatever the purpose is, that feature.
Okay, so wrapping things up a little bit. So we started things off by saying, are you guys set up for the new school year? So I want to close off sort of tying in with that. Are you ready to launch? So if you are and you just kind of want to talk to us about it or get some more guidance, or for that matter, just run things by us to make sure everything is aligned, let's plan. Let's chat together. Let's figure out what we can do. You can start by identifying your key users if you want to do a strategic rollout, and then kind of work through there. You're also able to order some custom adoption materials. So we have things like an adoption video that we can customize for you, some emails, which will be included in the attached file, as well as some guides, so PDFs and other videos that you can use as well as share with your community. Of course, we also have our website here, the adoption material website, which is about.vidigami.com/success center/adoption. We'll have links to those as well. But let's go ahead and make sure we get you ready to launch to your communities. Let's get 2018-19 on the way for you guys, your communities onboarded. Let's get that content in there and really kind of get Vidigami to do exactly what you want it to do. So that's the reason we signed up. So let's make sure we get you there. So if you wanted to talk more about your launch, please feel free to reach out to your client success specialist. That's what we're here for. We want to speak to you. We want to make sure you're on the right track. So we'll help you get there if need be. With that all being said, thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. Again, cannot reiterate enough that you're welcome to reach out to your CS specialist. You guys all have unlimited calls with us, so we're happy to chat with you. Please feel free to do so. My email address is here as well if you do want to reach out to me. And again, you can reach out, you can visit our support page here at support.vidigami.com, and that's going to help you find some more details on things we've looked at today. So once again, thank you all for your time today, and keep an eye out for that email with some additional resources as we've discussed on the call today. And one more thing to keep in mind, we are planning on doing a few more webinars moving forward, including one on launch, maybe another refresher training. So keep an eye out from our emails from us, and feel free to sign up for as many of them as you need to. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.